I've listened to Green River by Creedence Clearwater Revival for years.
And I listened to it once yesterday.
Welcome to Spin It. Hello, and welcome back to Spin It, the record ranking podcast for people who would rather be listening to music. I'm James, and with me is Connor.
Time to get swampy.
It's a very swampy album. Yeah, if the river's green, that probably means it's covered in algae. I'm jazzed. I've been ready for the 1-2 punch of Tom Petty and Creedence for a long time.
I'm swamped.
You're swamped? Well, clear your calendar. We've got an episode to make. But I figure between Full Moon Fever last week and Bad Moon Rising this week, we're kind of in a little moon era resurgence.
We kind of are. You're right.
Didn't do it on purpose, but I'm a fan. This is a fun pick for me. I discovered Creedence, or more, I guess, specifically John Fogerty, in kind of a weird way. You think about Creedence Clearwater Revival, and you think about, the hits. Fortunate Son, you think about Down on the Corner, you think about, like, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard a lot of the singles from just, classic rock radio, but I found Fogerty first. I was walking through Walmart one day, and I spotted a John Fogerty CD, and it was, cheap. And I was like, great, this is the guy from Creedence. I'll pick this up and check it out. I've never listened to Creedence, so this could be cool. It was a live album he put out in the 90s called Premonition, and it had a lot of Creedence hits. It had a lot of John Fogerty solo hits, and that was really, my first actual intentional dig into Creedence. So it's a weird roundabout way for the year of discovery, I think. What about you? I'm not even going to pretend for a second that I believe that you don't know Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Of course I know CCR.
Yeah. I'm going to guess that out of the 9 tracks on this album, you probably are batting over 500.
Oh, yeah.
Are you batting 1,000?
Time will tell.
Time indeed will tell. I guess the nighttime is the right time will tell, to be more specific, because that's when we'll know if you knew them all. Ooh, high stakes.
Ooh, high stakes indeed.
I feel like Creedence kind of in a lot of ways is the late 60s, early 70s rock band, right? They weren't around for very long, but they had such a huge reach and a huge impact in a very, very short window. You look at Woodstock, you listen to protest songs for Vietnam, you watch virtually any movie about the Vietnam War, you're pretty likely to hear Fortunate Son.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Creedence has almost become a symbol for political outspoken counterculture in the late 60s.
Sure.
They've really kind of become the voice of that, the emblematic of that time period.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. How much do you know about Creedence, besides the music, just about their story and the band?
I know a lot more now because I've read through your rundown, but
oh, you've sneaked a peek.
I really don't think I knew much about them at all before that, other than their music.
Interesting. I kind of knew some of it. I knew a little bit about, the bad blood that they kind of ended with and just the general arc of the Creedence story, but I actually learned a lot digging into it too. Who knew? The Creedence Clearwater Revival story begins with 3 pals in a middle school in El Cerrito, California. Those 3 pals are singer and guitarist John Fogerty, drummer Doug Clifford, and bassist Stu Cook. They all loved music, they all bonded over their love of music, and they all started their own band together called the Blue Velvets. Didn't take long for them to draft John Fogerty's older brother Tom into the lineup as well, and they actually started recording legit singles. One of them was even such a big hit that it got picked up by Casey Kasem on the radio. You know Casey Kasem, right?
Of course.
You big Scooby-Doo nerd, you.
Hey, I Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Uh-huh, yeah. Casey Kasem, voice of Shaggy for a while. Also did the radio countdowns of the best songs and stuff. Iconic radio DJ. But Creedence, at the time, Blue Velvet. I'm going to keep calling them Creedence, but at the time, they're just Blue Velvet. They ended up signing to a smaller indie jazz label called Fantasy because they realized Vince Guaraldi, one of their musical heroes and inspirations, he was signed there as well. You know Vince Guaraldi. He does all the music for Charlie Brown, all the jazz trio stuff. But the Fantasy label looks at Creedence and they said, Blue Velvets? That's a pretty cool name. That name is too cool for you.
You don't get to have that.
You don't deserve to be Blue Velvets.
Dang.
How about you become the Golliwoggs?
That's more fitting, swamp scum like you.
You lowly peasants. Swamp scum. Yeah, Gollywog. It reminds me of like Pollywog, right? Like, is that a frog? A baby tadpole? Like,
Yeah.
it's really not a very becoming name. Holy downgrade, Batman. The Golliwogs. They stuck with it, though. They were real troopers. They operated under that name and the fantasy label from 1964 to 1966, at which point John Fogerty and Doug Clifford actually got drafted into the Army and Coast Guard Reserves, respectively.
Nerds.
It was massively influential on the group's sound and their direction. Fogerty expanded his musical abilities by learning to play the harmonica, keyboards, even the saxophone. He really branched out from the guitar, and he started to produce, too. Starts to get behind the board for all the band's singles. For a long time, that musical expertise and kind of creative vision would lead John Fogerty to be basically the creative engine behind the band. We'll talk more about the consequences of that later, but he starts to develop this really distinctive roots rock, southern rock sound. It's like rockabilly and twang and blues and, yeah, like swamp rock, all combined into one. Take that, add in John Fogerty's iconic, unmistakable voice. That stuff would really start to become a hallmark for the Golliwogs. But finally, in January of 1968, Fantasy Records got sold outright, and the Golliwogs finally got a much-deserved and very necessary name change. This time, after rejecting a few flop names like Muddy Rabbit and Gossamer Wumped, they decided to go with Creedence Clearwater Revival. I mean, yeah, I'm glad they voted him down, but who voted him up?
I mean, to be fair, what they ended up with at its surface doesn't make a lot of sense either.
Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense, I guess, but at least it sounds good. I mean, what if they had to go out on stage and be like, hey, guys, you might have seen us as the Golliwogs, but now we're Gossamer Wump. I mean, what do you as a fan do?
I mean, I could be a wumper.
Yeah, a wump head.
Wump.
Yeah, no, Creedence Clearwater Revival is what they went with. And you're right, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially when you consider all of it. It's like three different pieces put together, right? First of all, and most surprisingly, Creedence was the name of one of Tom Fogerty's friends, Creedence Newball. But, I mean, Creedence, the guy, was named with one E, so they added a second E because they wanted to stand out, and they wanted it to look like the word Creed. So they started there. Then they took Clearwater from a TV ad for the Olympia Brewing Company. And then they took Revival because it was a combination of their vision for injecting new life into the band, who, I mean, to this point, had one big radio single and otherwise pretty limited success. So they wanted to revive things. And I think it also really plays well with the idea of a creed, right? Religious inspired. A creed and a revival, and there's just a lot of heart to it. It is definitely an iconic name now, but even at the time they came up with it, they asserted that it was weirder than Buffalo Springfield or Jefferson Airplane. And I think that's true. But Jefferson Airplane, I mean, they even managed to out-weird themselves with Jefferson Starship.
Yeah.
I don't know. Names, right? How about that?
What's in a name?
A rose, by any other name, would smell as sweet. A gossamer wump, by any other name, would revive as clear. Well, now that they've got a name that is, like, decent, they decide they can attach it to an album. CCR puts out a self-titled album, and they started touring with their new branding. They even appeared at the Fillmore East in New York City for the first time. They actually covered an old rockabilly song called Susie Q, and that started to gain radio traction.
Susie Q, not my song.
No, you're doing Billie Jean.
It's just a cover.
Right, that's not it.
I don't know, Susie Q fit the syllable count for Billie Jean, and that's where my brain went. Got a problem with it?
No, I don't have a problem with where your brain goes.
Feels like you do.
Not much of one.
I'll remember that.
Yes. No, the Susie Q, you should look it up. It's a great song. John Fogerty still plays it live to this day.
Huh.
It's not bad. The band's second album, Bayou Country, was their full-scale commercial breakthrough. It came out in January of 1969. 1969 was a very, very, very important year for Creedence Clearwater Revival, and it all kicked off in January.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they released 3 albums in 1969.
I'm trying to act like I don't know that, just so I have something to say, even though I already admitted at the top of this episode I've read all this.
Yeah, I know. At least you're putting forth the effort. But the audience doesn't know it yet. You're like the stand-in for the audience. You have to ask the questions that they would ask.
Yeah.
And so then I can answer them. But that's why. 3 albums in 1969. 12 months, 3 big records. And the first of that was Bayou Country. It ended up going platinum, and it peaked at number 7 on the Billboard charts. That one's got singles like Born on the Bayou, and probably, maybe, Creedence's second best-known song of all time, Proud Mary. Do you know Proud Mary?
Yeah, I definitely know Proud Mary. I mean,
Do you know Creedence's Proud Mary?
I say I don't know. Probably not Creedence's version, but I was just singing Proud Mary the other day, actually.
Keeps on rolling.
You commented on it. You're like, oh, somebody's ready for our next episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yes, and I think Proud Mary is Creedence's second best known song because it's definitely their most covered song. A year after they released Proud Mary, Ike and Tina Turner covered it, and you know Tina. I mean, we did a whole episode on Tina Turner.
I mean, yeah, we know Tina.
It's an incredible song, and that gave the song this huge burst of longevity and energy, and I think, honestly, no shade to Creedence whatsoever, but I feel like Tina's version of Proud Mary has become, like, the definitive version in the historical, like, collective memory.
It kind of has.
Yeah.
It's her song now.
Right, she took it, snatched it right away from Fogerty. And, I mean, that's just the very beginning of that dense songwriting period. The band tried their absolute best to be a disciplined band. I mean, as a band that's around in the late 60s, especially being so representative of maybe like the counterculture movement, they were kind of turned off by all the bands that they saw that were stoned and out of it on stage. And they just didn't really care about the music they were making. And so they said, you know what, we're not going to do that. We're going to be better. Clifford said that they resolved to do no drugs or alcohol. We decided to get high on the music or get out of the business. And so they did. That's where things start picking up for us today. The second album that they released in 1969 is Green River, our subject today. I had the hardest time in the world picking between Green River and other records. We'll talk about it in a bit, but there's definitely going to have to be a Creedence backtracks. I might have done wrong. I say that every time.
Let's say you say that every time.
But really, though, maybe, I don't know. It's just about how the hits stack up against the hits, really.
The hits just keep rolling.
Thankfully, Proud Mary won't really be in the running, either on this album or the one that we backtrack, but rolling down the river. So yeah, Green River is Creedence's third record. They recorded it between March and June of 1969. Fogerty did a good deal of the songwriting and the arranging, really taking the reins here. That said, though, everybody seems to have been happy with their ability to make up their own instrumental parts. They had a lot of creative freedom individually. They did most of the recording together as a full band. It's not like Fogerty's a tyrant leader or anything, right? At this point, he's in charge, but they're all still gelling very well. So the album came out on August 7th, 1969, 10 days just about before Creedence appeared at Woodstock. We'll talk more about Woodstock in a bit. When it came out, Green River earned significant critical praise. Rolling Stone called it a great album. They said that Creedence was now creating the most vivid American rock music since Music from Big Pink by the band. You remember.
Well,
We didn't talk about Music from Big Pink as an episode, but we talked about it when we talked about the band.
Totally.
AllMusic also gave Green River 5 stars. It was the band's very first #1 album on the Billboard 200. By the end of 1970, within a year and a half or so, it would go platinum. Today, Green River is more than 3 times platinum in the US. Interestingly enough, Green River also ended up at number 26 on the top R&B/hip-hop albums chart. But that's back when the chart was just the hot R&B LPs. Much more in line with what Creedence is doing. It was not the R&B and hip-hop chart in 1969. And actually, I did a little bit of a deep dive into that chart because I was like, that's a very strange situation. And for a while in the 80s, that chart was called the Top Black Albums chart. That's a weird chart for Creedence to be on.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, they've corrected a little bit here. They've changed it to R&B and hip-hop albums. But yeah, for a while, Creedence had historically been on the top of the Black Albums chart.
Weird.
Green River ended up being number 95 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list. Fogerty himself has said that it was his favorite Creedence record to make. Its biggest hit singles, that we'll talk more about soon, include just iconic songs you already know. Hits like Green River, Commotion, Lodi, Bad Moon Rising, just a bunch. I mean, half the album, I just said.
Half the album.
And they're huge hits. So they put out this record. 10 days later, Creedence takes the stage at Woodstock, right? The iconic music festival in upstate New York. On a farm, lots of hippies around. tons of great music. I mean, I can't even believe just the lineup at Woodstock was intense. They took the stage at 12:30 in the morning because, I mean, we've talked in the past, I think on our Janis Joplin episode specifically, about how much of a mess Woodstock was, how they were helicoptering artists in and out, and shows were running long and starting late, and it was just a whole debacle. But Creedence goes on at 12:30 in the morning. Their 11-song set list included 4 brand new songs from Green River. And in 2019, they actually released the recordings of their Woodstock performance as a live album for the festival's 50th anniversary.
Nice.
Yeah, really nice. I actually got to see Fogerty live in 2023. He puts on a great show. And to this day, he's the only artist I've ever seen who actually performed at Woodstock. And I mean, that's just it's just a mind-boggling fact to think about.
That is cool.
To watch him play and be like, that guy was on stage at Woodstock. I could not wrap my head around it. Still can't.
Did they perform at 12:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Because I found multiple sources that said it was 3 a.m. So I was going to have you double check that before you said it.
Oh, I feel like it was 12:30. The point is it was really early in the morning. Well, okay, this one says 1:20 a.m. This one says 2:30 a.m.
Man, they don't know when they performed.
Nobody knows it. It just depends on what time zone you were in.
That is how time works.
That's what we'll chalk that up to, even though they were just in New York. But whatever. Sometime between 1 and 3 a.m., Creedence goes on and does that. They actually were the very first act to be contracted for the festival. I mean, we talked about how some artists got wicked paychecks for the show. I mean, they sold the tickets for this dirt cheap, and the organizers were paying artists just out the wazoo. They made $10,000 for the gig.
It's a lot.
Which, if you adjust for inflation, yeah, it's close to $83,000 today.
Hey, I'd take the 10 grand unadjusted for inflation.
No doubt. I know. But they went and played 11 songs at 3 in the morning for almost $100,000.
That's pretty awesome.
It is wild. And despite being the first band contracted and stuff, they still were excluded from the official film and soundtrack that came out after the festival.
Well, so here's some fun facts about that. They are excluded by their own choice. Mm-hmm. They hated their performance so much, they were like, no, do not put us on the soundtrack. Do not include us in any of the footage for the movie.
Pretend we were never there.
Pretend we were never there.
You didn't see anything.
And then their record company couldn't come to terms on the royalty agreement, so then they got their way regardless. But they were very much against the idea themselves.
Yeah, kind of understandable. Woodstock was, not the most audiophile friendly venue, right? Giant wooden stage in the middle of a field. You're just playing through amps really loud, and it's late at night. It's chaotic. Who knows what's going on? I don't blame them. It probably wasn't their best performance.
Bleh.
So yeah, that's Woodstock. You might be thinking, hey, 2 albums in a Woodstock performance, that's a pretty awesome year. That's a lot. I bet they were exhausted, right? And the answer is, yeah, maybe, probably. But they weren't done in any case. Their 4th album, Willie and the Poor Boys, also came out in 1969. That was the 3rd of 3 albums that year. And that's the album we're going to have to backtrack. I could not pick between Green River and Willie and the Poor Boys. I listened to them both back to back. I tried and I thought about it. I mean, they're both iconic records, and they're decently similar since they came out mere months apart. So I need to get your thoughts on that one also. Stay tuned for a backtrack mini episode later this week. But what a record. That's the record that's home to singles like Down on the Corner and Midnight Special. And of course, the iconic and instantly recognizable Fortunate Son. It would go to number 3 in the US. So Green River actually charted better than Willie and the Poor Boys.
Huh.
Yeah. But after that came out, they made it onto the Ed Sullivan Show. They were on the cover of Rolling Stone. And in 1970, they even took on their first European tour. Next came Creedence's 5th record and 2nd number 1 album, Cosmo's Factory. And it helped Creedence set a very weird world record. Creedence is the band with the most number 2 singles on the Hot 100 without ever hitting number 1. They've done this 5 times. 5 number 2 singles they've put out. Only 5 other artists ever have had that many number 2 hits, and all of them have number 1s in addition. The other artists that tie the number 2s are Madonna, Taylor Swift, Drake, Elvis, and the Carpenters. But everyone else got a number 1, except Creedence, who couldn't quite get over that hump. So that's a fun little trivia tidbit. You know, if you ever need to know who's got the most number 2s, but no hits.
Yeah, there's your answer.
Yeah. Their 5th record, Pendulum, came out in 1970. And at that point, the wheels start to come off pretty abruptly. The rest of the band is starting to get a little fed up with John Fogerty. He's starting to be overbearing and controlling, maybe micromanaging a little bit, making all these creative decisions, kind of iron fist. In fact, his brother Tom was the first person to decide to step away. He left in 1971 after Pendulum. And John was obviously a little peeved to learn that everyone felt so strongly about this. He said, fine, okay, if you don't like it, if you don't like the way that I run things, we'll change it up. We'll do it your way. And he said, here's what we're going to do for the next album. We're going to make it by committee. Every one of you is responsible for 3 songs. Arrangements, music, lyrics, all of it. Everyone come to the next recording session with 3 songs. I'll only do the guitar parts. If you think I'm taking too much control, I will only do the bare minimum, and you can bring your own songs, which is a pretty intense reaction.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but nobody really knows, actually, in the moment, how Clifford and Cook felt about that idea, whether they were like, awesome, this is what we've always wanted, or were like, dude, chill, we just, said ease up. But they sure gave it a shot. They tried to capture the Creedence sound, the magic, that they had going on prior to this point, but they couldn't always get it. And they said, hey, we're really trying our best to write these songs. John, can you help us out? Like, can you just get us this last little bit or whatever? Sometimes he flat out refused. He said, nope, that's your song. That's what you're doing.
You asked for this.
This is how you wanted it. And that's no way to run a band. The writing was kind of on the wall all throughout their last project. The final album that they would release, called Mardi Gras, came out in April of 1972, and it went about as well as you'd expect. Each member got to sing lead on the songs that he wrote, and critics just lambasted it, took it to the cleaners for its inconsistency, its lack of cohesion. It really just did not have the Creedence magic that people had come to expect. Rolling Stone's John Landau even went so far as to say, relative to a group's established level of performance, Mardi Gras is the worst album I have ever heard from a major rock band.
Oof.
Yeah, what a dagger. Still, though, it went on to be number 12 on the charts and was their 7th straight gold-certified record. But there was just no saving it. The band broke up 6 months after their touring cycle for Mardi Gras was over. And then, they all commented on it, of course. Everyone's got a lot of big opinions in the immediate aftermath. Fogerty would go on to say, I was alone when I made Creedence music. I was alone when I made the arrangements. I was alone when I added background vocals, guitars, and some other stuff. I was alone when I produced and mixed the albums. The other guys showed up only for rehearsals and the days we made the actual recordings. For me, Creedence was like sitting on a time bomb. We'd had decent success with our cover of Susie Q and with the first album when we went into the studio to cut Proud Mary. It's the first time we were in a real Hollywood studio, RCA's Los Angeles studio, and the problems started immediately. The other guys in the band insisted on writing songs for the new album, and they had opinions on arrangements they wanted to sing. They went so far as to adding background vocals to Proud Mary, and it sounded awful. They used tambourines, and it sounded no better. That's when I understood I had a choice to make. Either this new album would be a success, something really big, or we might as well start working at the car wash again. And that's the point where he kind of tries to take things into his own hands. He said we had to make the best possible album, and it wasn't important who did what, as long as the result was the very best we could achieve. And of course, I was the one who should do it. I don't think the others really understood what I meant, but at least I could manage the situation the way I wanted. The result was 8 million selling double-sided singles in a row, and 6 albums who all went platinum. And Melody Maker had us as the best band in the world. That was after the Beatles split, but still. And I was the one who had created all this. Despite that, I don't think they understood what I was talking about. They were obsessed with the idea of more control and more influence. So finally, the bomb exploded, and we never worked together again. Which is not entirely true. They did actually reunite one time in 1980 for a single performance at Tom Fogerty's wedding. But that's it. That's a long quote, but I think it's a very revealing quote of why things kind of started to fracture there. If that's the way that you're viewing the band and the process, I see why they got frustrated. And I see why there's 2 sides to every story. I see why he also got frustrated, but they were at a breakneck pace.
Yeah.
It was just unsustainable. Time bomb is a very apt analogy because you just can't keep going like that. After their breakup in the early 70s, they get into some solo projects and stuff. Tom Fogerty, first one out of the band, he did a few solo albums and even worked with his former Creedence bandmates a few times. He had some success through 5 records. Obviously not Creedence level success, but They did okay. He passed away in 1990 after some complications from a blood transfusion. Stu Cook and Doug Clifford stuck together after Creedence split, and they worked as musicians, session musicians for the Don Harrison Band. They also branched into recording technology, and they founded a mobile recording service called Factory Productions. Clifford even tried his hand with the solo album called Cosmo, and Cook went into producing. In 1995, they actually tried to revive the revival under the name Creedence Clearwater Revisited. They still tour today with that name, but for a little while, John Fogerty tried to sue them over the name, which they won, actually. They spent a little bit of time going by Cosmo's Factory, a reference to their album, but they were able to keep Creedence Clearwater Revisited. John Fogerty has probably had the most significant post-Creedence career, objectively. He's put out 10 studio albums, all of which have charted on the Billboard 200. His 1985 record Centerfield even went to number 1, and he does have some really good singles. His hits as a solo artist include Rockin' All Over the World, Almost Saturday Night, The Old Man Down the Road, obviously Centerfield, plenty more. Do a dig into his catalog, you won't regret it. He's also toured a lot since Creedence has ended, and he hasn't always played Creedence songs. Especially in the immediate years after the band's breakup, he kind of tried to avoid their work altogether. But in 1987, like a dozen years later, he finally came around, and he's kept a healthy number of CCR tracks in the set lists ever since. So that's Creedence. That's the rise and the fall of one of the most notable bands of the late 60s. As far as their awards and accolades go, to recap and to put into perspective here, this band became Creedence Clearwater Revival in 1968. They released 3 albums in 1969 and 7 by 1972 when they would break up. 7 iconic albums in 4 years. Like, they burn out bright rather than faded away, I think.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone has been very laudatory of Creedence. They were ranked number 82 on their list of 100 greatest artists. 3 CCR records have made the cut as the 500 greatest albums of all time. They've landed 4 singles on Rolling Stone's 500 greatest songs of all time list. Fortunate Son was added to the Library of Congress's National Recording Registry in 2013, and it was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame alongside Proud Mary and the entire record, Cosmo's Factory. And then Creedence made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993. I actually thought the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's bio of the band was also a particularly good one. They said, Creedence Clearwater Revival were progressive and anachronistic at the same time. An unapologetic throwback to the golden era of rock and roll, they broke ranks with their peers on the progressive, psychedelic San Francisco scene. Their approach was basic and uncompromising, holding true to the band members' working-class origins. The term roots rock had not yet been invented when Creedence came along, but in essence, they defined it, drawing inspiration from the likes of Little Richard, Hank Williams, Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and the artisans of soul at Motown and Stax. In so doing, Creedence Clearwater Revival became the standard bearers and foremost celebrants of homegrown American music. And I mean, wow, what a stellar review. Also, fun little trivia tidbit, last little detail, and I thought about this when we talked about Tom Petty last week. Creedence, or none of its members, no one that was involved with Creedence, controls the masters. The rights are held by their record label, so the band has never ever had very much control over where their music ends up.
And boy, does that annoy them.
Yeah, it does. When you hear Fortunate Son everywhere, they didn't have any hand in that. And Fogerty's talked about it, about their music ending up everywhere and how annoying it is. He said, there's good stuff and there's bad stuff too. Like, he said, folks will remember Forrest Gump, and that was a great movie. But they don't remember all the really poor movies that Fantasy Records stuck Creedence music into. Car commercials, tire commercials, maybe B.F. Goodrich was in there. He said, I'm remembering a paint thinner ad at one point with the song Who Will Stop the Rain. It's just so tacky and funny. I don't know. Let this be a lesson. Try and keep control of your masters, or you'll end up in paint thinner commercials. Anyway, that's the sitch. That's Creedence Clearwater Revival. That's Green River. I believe it's time for the Mixtaper to come on out here and play some Factor Spin.
Hey, it's me, the Mixtaper.
Hey, Mixtaper.
Today, I'm Swamp Taper.
Swamp Taper? Going Born on the Bayou style?
Hey, that's where mixtapers thrive. We're indigenous to the bayou.
That doesn't seem true. And I also like that you're kind of talking about yourself as like a Tigger.
M-I-double-X taper.
That's not how it's even spelled.
I added the extra X to stand out.
Uh-huh. Well, why are you feeling swampy this week? Do you have a bunch of swamp facts?
No,
Or
just
do you just need to like go put on deodorant?
we're swamp rocking. So
I mean, yeah, that's fair. What's your sinister purpose going to be today?
my sinister purpose is to beat you in fact or spin.
Okay. Do your worst.
I'll definitely try. Up first, John Fogerty had a horrible allergy.
The allergy facts are always stressful because maybe not. You say had like it's in the past tense.
Yeah,
Does he still have a horrible allergy?
maybe.
Okay. But are you talking about a time he had a particularly bad allergic reaction?
Well, yeah, he developed a pretty bad allergic reaction while part of CCR.
Well, what did he get allergic to?
Drumsticks and cymbals.
That is unusual. Yeah, unusually allergic to drumsticks and cymbals?
Yep.
Just because he didn't like playing them? Or,
Correct.
okay, he just said he had an allergy because he didn't want to do it anymore?
Yeah. He originally started out as a drummer right before transitioning to lead vocals and lead guitar. And whenever asked why he made the switch, he would always say it's because he developed an allergic reaction to drumsticks and cymbals.
That's pretty good. That's classic John Fogerty humor. So not like a real physical allergy.
Not real.
Not like he had to get the EpiPen out because he accidentally
I touched the cymbal.
played a shuffle one time. No. Okay, I think this is true. I think he would have said that. Sure.
This is a spin.
Rats.
I also thought it was a funny thing that he would say.
I really thought that was true. Good job.
Man, we flew through that one. That was in and out.
Well, I don't know. There wasn't much I felt like I could ask about. I tried to dance around it at the beginning, but
Yeah.
he just had a fake allergy. He didn't even have it. He just said that he was allergic.
True.
What do you want me to ask? What do you have to say?
You know what? Fair enough.
I'm allergic to being wrong about that fact.
Fogerty was already a famous musician before joining CCR. Or I guess more accurately, before whatever the heck their first name was. Blue whatever. Velvet.
Blue Velvet?
Yeah, Blue Velvet.
Before Gossamer Wumped, before Golliwogged, before Blue Velvet. You're talking about John Fogerty or Tom Fogerty?
Yeah, John Fogerty.
Well, how's he a famous musician then? He's like in middle school. Mm-hmm. You know, famous to whom?
To be exact, he was 8.
8. What did he do when he was 8 that made him so famous?
He was the front man of his first band.
Oh, started young. What was the band?
Johnny Corvette and the Corvettes.
He was the front man. Was he Johnny Corvette?
Yeah, he was.
Wow.
He really used up the really good names at the very beginning. Johnny Corvette, Blue Velvet. I mean, all the good names were used up before anybody even knew who they were.
It's true. And then by the time they got to Creedence, he was like, well, there's no going back. It's too late. I already wasted that name when I was 8.
Although knowing John Fogerty, he may have tried to convince them to go by Johnny Corvette and the Corvettes. I mean, that feels like a him move.
Maybe. What kind of music is Johnny Corvette singing?
All the music.
Well, who's he performing for?
His family.
Oh, so he's famous to his family.
No, I mean, he introduced himself as the famous Johnny Corvette and the Corvettes band to his family. He also didn't have a band.
Right, he just did a little show by himself.
Yeah, he had an imaginary band. It was just him. There weren't no Corvettes. It was just Johnny Corvette. He had an imaginary Corvettes.
I mean, I have an imaginary Corvette too. You should see it sometime.
His first band was an imaginary band called Johnny Corvette and the Corvettes, and he thought they were world famous.
Yeah, it's a shame that he was wrong, but it's nice that he got to be world famous later. What happened? How'd this band break up? Was he too controlling for that one too? Everybody needed to take a break.
He was poached by another band.
Seems like this Johnny Corvette guy's just doing everything. Well, Mixtaper, I told Connor this. I saw John Fogerty in concert about a year ago. And he's got some great stage banter. And he tells a lot of stories, you know, about the songs and how he wrote them and playing at Woodstock and stuff. Don't you think he would have talked about Johnny Corvette?
No idea.
What if I told you he didn't talk about Johnny Corvette?
Great. I don't know.
Well, he did not. I think this is a fact. He should have talked about it.
Were you trying to fake me out there? I'm confused what just happened.
I was just trying to get some kind of a reaction. Yeah, just some kind of a read. See what happened there.
Interesting. What'd you get out of it?
Nothing. I probably could have lied and said that he did talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then it would have been stupid if it was a spin, but you would have been really confused.
Yeah.
I think it's a fact, though.
Don't you think that the fact that I didn't immediately freak out about you knowing it mean that I probably knew there was no way he could have talked about it, since this is actually a true fact?
Yes! I took a gamble and it paid off. Good old Johnny Corvette Fogerty.
Yep.
It's a good thing he didn't use that name. He would have surely been sued. Not when he was 8, but when he was an adult.
Out there suing 8-year-olds.
If instead of Creedence, he tried to be the Corvettes, that would not have worked.
True. What if he legally changed his last name to Corvette? Then could he have?
Yeah, probably. Well, the band couldn't have been the Corvettes. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Why are you asking me?
I'm between lawyers at the moment. Didn't really have anybody else to ask.
Yeah. Just, couldn't reach out to my ex-lawyer and ended on bad terms.
Yeah.
We wanted to litigate with other people.
Different strategies.
We just wanted different things. I really do wish him the best, though,
Really.
And I know I should ask for forgiveness, but that's what he would tell me to do.
Do you want to hear about heirs or Russia first?
Are you talking heirs like Heirs?
Yeah.
Like inheritance?
Offspring, maybe is another word.
Let's hear about Russia first, and then we can come back to heirs.
The band had a unique performance.
Was it in Russia?
No. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been tricked.
Moscow, to be exact.
Okay.
1977, to be exacter.
Exactor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Picture this. A cool Moscowian night in 1977.
Yeah. When in the year am I picturing? Is it cold or really cold?
That's why I just said cool. It could go wrong.
Okay. I don't know if Moscowian is a word either, but we'll ignore that.
Yeah, well, it definitely isn't. But I thought it was funny, so I said it.
Uh-huh.
Back to the picture.
Right. It's a cold night.
Cold night. You're all bundled up, ready to go see CCR live and in concert.
Yeah.
As one of 80,000 fans who all gathered together for this ritual.
Probably just a huddle for warmth, mostly, but also Creedence maybe would be there.
But lo and behold, you don't speak English, so you really are just going for the warmth.
I don't understand.
Lucky for you, though, CCR comes prepared.
What are you trying to say?
They perform the entire concert
It's like you're speaking to me.
in Russian.
Oh, I just wish I knew what the fact was.
I see what you're doing here.
I hear syllables, but I don't speak English. What does it mean?
This will be an easy one to win, audience, since you can't understand me.
No, it's like that SpongeBob episode where he throws out everything except fine dining and breathing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying in 1977, Creedence Clearwater Revival goes to Russia
Moscow.
and performs in Russian?
Performs their entire performance in Russian in front of 80,000 fans.
That's got to be a lot of work to translate all your songs. What did they say? Like, were the lyrics directly translated or what? Again, Russia's not the most politically open place in the world, and Creedence is not the most politically reserved band in the world. And I think if you directly translate some of these songs and played them for a Russian crowd,
Especially Russia in 1977.
you might get some kickback. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any kickback.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm really confused about the timeline, though. 1977's like,
Took them that long to learn Russian.
it's probably properly after they broke up.
When did they break up?
In like 1973, they reunited like one time.
Maybe this was under Creedence Clearwater Revisited. That was in 1995. The thing just says CCR, so the R could be Revival or Revisited. Who knows?
I don't know. I'm not buying the timeline right here.
Okay. So does that mean you're going fact?
Well, I feel like I'm going spin because I don't think Creedence as a band properly existed in 1977. But also, I feel like you know that, and you know that I would think that, and this is like some trick. I feel like this is true for some reason, even though the band wasn't around. Like, there's some technicality.
Oh, wait, that wasn't 95 that they revived. Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I can't tell if you just didn't realize that the band was broken up by then, or if this is like some technicality.
Well, I'm not going to say.
I know you're not, and that's the problem. I can't say this is true. I think it's way more likely that you just had a little oversight. I'm going to call this one a spin. It's also, timeline aside, that's such a ridiculous thing to do. To translate every song in your set list to Russian?
Yeah.
That's wild. That's so much.
I already knew it was a bit of a ridiculous thing to do, and it was going to be hard to sell even before the 1977 thing that I didn't realize. So Unfortunately,
Don't say that it's...
this is a true fact.
No way. Really?
Well, according to the 3 sources that I found that all said the same thing.
Really? I could have sworn they were just broken up for good in 74 or 5 tops.
I mean, yeah, I continue my sources. When I Google it, Bing's AI says, certainly, in 1977, Creedence Clearwater Revival performed a set in Russia singing all their songs in Russian. The concert took place before 80,000 fans in Moscow. Unfortunately, I don't have further details about the specific songs they performed during the concert, but it's fascinating to imagine their iconic hits being sung in a different language. Thanks, Microsoft Bing AI.
That your sources in... Hold on. Your sources Bing AI?
Well, no, that's just when I tried Googling for more information what Bing AI had to say.
I don't see anything...
Well, one of my sources is ultimateguitar.com. My other source is concertarchives.org. And then my third source is 19 Fascinating Creedence Clearwater Facts. And my fourth source is 6 Facts About Creedence Clearwater Revival. So
I finally found a link that seems like something relevant on Ultimate Guitar, but it can't be true. That can't be true. The band broke up.
Creedence Clearwater Revival concert history. There's all sorts of stuff going on between when they broke up and when they got back together. There is less stuff, but there is a few things. 1996 is after they've come back, never mind. So it seems like they got together every once in a while.
I really can't find this fact. I don't even buy it.
I mean, I've got 4 sources for it.
I'm straight up Googling Creedence Clearwater Revival 1977 Moscow, and I can't even find your links. I see it written on The Spoof, which is satire and not real.
That's great.
Yeah, it includes other facts like, hold on, did you get all your things from this? Because number 2 on thespoof.com is lead singer John Fogerty started out playing drums, but developed a horrible allergic reaction to drumsticks and cymbals.
No, I did not get everything from that. Thank you very much.
This says the song Green River has over 9,000 words. You're killing me. This isn't real. I feel like your sources are bunk.
Wait. I'm so confused. I've never had this happen before, where I have this many sources saying the same thing, and it's not going to be true?
It can't be true. The band broke up.
I've been bamboozled? Send me...
I can't send you. There's nothing. What, do you want me to send? Proof that it didn't happen?
The spoof thing.
I usually don't bother Googling in the episode. I usually trust your sourcing, but this one was just too untrue.
These are pretty funny.
I'm calling it a spin, and I'm taking that point.
No, hang on. I'm not finished with you.
The allergy thing is on the spoof website, but you also said that was a spin. So I'll leave that one alone. No, a lot of people have Googled it. It's like people also search for Creedence Moscow 1977, but there's no hits, no results.
I'm just trying to figure out if the date's wrong.
I don't think it happened at all. I think the spoof website made up a lie, and I think all these other things combed all the websites to find fun facts, and I think this is dead internet theory.
That has to be...
This is AI finding AI.
I think the dead internet theory has finally caught up to the podcast. This is why I go get so many sources.
And I appreciate that you do. Yeah, it's true.
How many episodes in? What episode is this?
165.
165 episodes in.
It's just not real.
Wow.
Creedence has not played in Moscow and never will.
That's so sad. Well, don't never say never.
The band's broken up and one of them's dead. I feel like it's a pretty safe bet.
I mean, we've talked about bands that don't have any original members alive that are still going, so...
Touche, at Leonard Skinner.
Never say never.
Yeah, I'm going to take my point.
Yeah, well, I give it to you.
That's a spin. The band had no unique performance. Well, that would have been a wild one to wrap up with.
Yeah. Now I'm worried about all my facts.
Double check your inheritance. Got heirs coming up next.
Yeah. It's crazy that so many sources just had wrong information about...
And that, you know what? And we had the right information.
Yeah.
We're a trustworthy podcast in the post-truth age.
Yeah, that's right, we are. I was almost suggesting we don't even warrant this misinformation with the light of day and use my backup fact, but I like your spin on it better.
We're the truest source of information. Actually, we should leave it in the episode, because then everyone that Googles this conspiracy theory is going to listen to the podcast.
Yeah. I'm worried I can't confirm this fact either.
Uh-oh.
I'm worried I've got twice. My 2 other sources that had the Russian thing, 2 of my other sources also have my inheritance thing, which is also on the spoof
Really?
Which I thought it was ridiculous, and that's why I brought it, because I found it on multiple sources. Like, this is insane. I have to bring this. And now I understand why it was insane, because it's not true.
Bass player Stu Cook named his twin boys Creedence and Clearwater. So stupid. It's not true. That is so not true.
Yeah. Well, okay, I was like, Creedence, I could believe. That's a name.
It's so funny. They named the band after a guy named Creedence.
But I was like, who names their kid Clearwater? And then I found it on multiple sources and went, this is insane.
The funny story above is satire or parody. It is entirely fictitious.
Well, good thing I have a backup fact then.
In 2007, the Louisiana town of Turkey Creek legally changed its name to Creedence Clearwater Revivalville, Louisiana. It's very funny.
It's a pretty funny list of spoof.
Yikes.
Yikes. Man, I thought I was all ready. And here I've been bamboozled twice. I'm double checking my backup fact now just in case. Here's the sad thing, and I think maybe we talked about this in his episode. I'm just now remembering. Wasn't Elton John like the first Western musician to perform in the USSR? Like after 1980?
Yeah, you just had me very confused because I was like, there's no way this is possible. But I felt like you'd know. I felt like it was a trick. Like there was some other CCR that played in Moscow, or I don't know.
I thought I also had a great one because you're like, he's going to think it's fake. And he did. And he was right.
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, I think this one's true.
All right.
I'm scared. I'm gun shy now. I've kind of given away the answer to the last one by the amount of research I had to do to figure out if it was true.
Well,
So I don't know what to do in this scenario.
that's a great point. What you got? I mean, we could go 50-50 here.
John Fogerty performed as part of a super trio.
A super trio. Who's in this super trio? We know 1/3 of it is John Fogerty.
Bruce Springsteen and Robbie Robertson.
Oh, from the band and Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, respectively. Not respectively, the opposite. Is there a word for respectively, but when it's in reverse? I don't know it if there is.
No, not in the way we want it to be.
No, I don't think so, yeah.
Opposite words for respectively include together, collectively.
But no, that's not it.
That's not like the version of respectively we want.
Together and collectively, they are in this super trio.
Yeah.
What kind of trio we talking? Is this like a one-off thing?
Yeah, just a one-off performance.
Okay, where do they perform? Don't you dare say Moscow. I won't believe it, I swear.
This is all an elaborate ruse to...
You made me figure out the fake fact, and then that'd be a 3D chess.
At the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh man, you can't guess that. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Everybody plays together at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. For what? Is this an induction? I mean, if Creedence is it Creedence getting inducted? 'Cause
yeah.
I feel like the rest of the band would be there.
Sure is.
And it's just John Fogerty that shows up, and the rest of them said, no thanks.
No, they all showed up.
Oh, and they just didn't play in this trio?
No, they performed their own song.
Got it. That does make sense. So who plays what?
He refused to play with them, so they performed a song. And then he said, I also want to perform a song, and I'm going to perform it with Bruce Springsteen and Robbie Robertson. And we're going to use Who'll Stop the Rain.
Oh, okay. They did Who'll Stop the Rain. What did the other two do?
They performed... I don't know. I feel like I saw it somewhere when I was researching all this, but I didn't write it down. No, I don't even know. Did they even perform? I can't trust anything anymore.
Oh no. Sounds like we just need to wrap it up so you can just take a break.
I'm broken. I just need a pumpernickel and mayonnaise sandwich and a good sleep.
No kidding.
Hang on. They didn't perform. And he performed Who'll Stop the Rain, Green River, and Born on the Bayou.
Okay.
A little 3-song set.
That sounds more standard for the Hall of Fame. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call this a fact.
Well, this is indeed a fact.
Yes.
So, I believe... how did that even shake out? did you win?
It's 50-50.
What happened here?
The horrible allergy was a lie, and I believed it because it sounded like something he would say. That one became a point for you. Fogerty, Johnny Corvette, was already a famous musician. That one was true. And I guessed wrong because I thought it was not true.
Maybe. I don't know. Is anything true? I don't know what's true and what's false anymore.
Yeah, I guess we didn't fact check Johnny Corvette.
I don't know.
But the unique performance was a lie that I called you on. And And Fogerty's part of a super trio definitely is true. And also, just ridiculous, and I can't believe you didn't find or go with this. Tom Fogerty's wife brought the urn full of his ashes to the ceremony because she thought it was like a big Creedence reunion. And then it was just John Fogerty, and the other two walked out, and she was there holding his ashes.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Apparently all that was hidden under all the misinformation of the dead internet.
Wild. Well, we've learned a valuable lesson today.
How can I ever trust anything ever again?
We'll learn to love again.
My brain hurts.
I know. But I do think the Johnny Corvette thing is real. It looks like he might have said that in an interview with Rolling Stone.
Is the Rolling Stone even real?
Yeah, I would call that a bit of a more credible source than spoof.com.
I'm becoming a conspiracy theorist now because of this.
That's not what you want from your evil villains. Oh, I'm sure you'll have some true facts next week. I don't know. You'll recover.
From now on, I'm telling nothing but spins, so I can't be caught in this situation ever again.
Just to protect yourself. No more misinformation. I'm only lying.
Yeah, well, we're only here about information.
Oh, that's good. Mix information. That's all this was. It was just spins and mix information. Plus one little true nugget. Oh, Mixtaper, I'm sorry that didn't go according to plan.
No, it didn't at all. I never thought I'd discover something worse than you already knowing a fact.
It's me already knowing a spin. That's what's worse. Me knowing a fact can't be true. Oh boy. Well, we'll see you next week. We'll see you next week, if you know what I mean.
I do know what that means.
No one else does yet, but they will.
And I'm excited. Yeah.
Wow. Welcome back, Connor. What a wild ride that turned out to be.
I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, me too. I mean, his whole job is research.
I'm getting secondhand embarrassment.
Secondhand? Yeah,
You know?
that's a real bummer, that.
Real bummer. Imagine if that was me, man. I don't know how I'd live.
I don't know. I think you'd find a way.
Couldn't have happened to a dastardly guy.
No, for sure. I want to go Google all 659 of our previous facts now. Figure it all out.
turns out like everything he's ever said has been
Nothing's
just
ever been
completely
true.
false.
Oh. But again, though, we caught him. Could have been worse. We could have just spread the lies, you know? We foiled his evil, not even plans. We foiled his evil mistakes.
Yeah.
As John Fogerty maybe would say at the beginning of Green River. Well, let's talk about this album art. It is the band standing there in a clearing in the middle of a swamp, woods, forest. And I have to say, I mean, they all look great. Good picture. It's 1969. How much do you expect from a roots rock album like this? Absolutely abysmal choice of text and font, okay? One of the worst we've seen. This is like down there with Reba and whoever's in New England on like legibility. If that's the score I'm giving, they could not have picked a worse color or size or font or anything.
Yeah, pretty rough.
It is. But it's green. Really hits the Green River nail on the head.
Real swampy.
It sure is. Well, let's do it. We got 9 tracks this time. It's a short album. And honestly, it's under a half hour long. It's quick. Can't even believe it.
Well, you're going to have to.
No choice but to believe it. Green River. The title track is up first. An early single. Green River came out a month before the album did, and it peaked at number 2 for a week. It got edged out by the Archie song, Sugar Sugar.
Sugar.
That's the one.
It's a good song.
Mm-hmm. And so is Green River, but apparently not good enough to hang on against Sugar Sugar on the charts. But it is one of Creedence's best songs, biggest hits. It's certified gold in the US, and Billboard named Green River the number 31 best song of 1969, in a year where there were just a lot of really good songs. This was number 31.
Good year for music.
It really was. Fogerty said, Green River is really about this place where I used to go as a kid, near Winters, California. I went there with my family every year until I was 10, back in his Johnny Corvette days. He said, lots of happy memories there. I learned how to swim there. There was a rope hanging from the tree, dragonflies, bullfrogs. There was a little cabin we would stay in, owned by a descendant of Buffalo Bill Cody. And he said that's the reference in the song to Cody Jr.
Wow.
He sings about a character named Cody Jr., I guess Bill Cody's offspring. He said, Green River I got from a soda pop syrup label. You used to be able to go into a soda fountain and they had all these bottles of flavored syrup. My flavor was called Green River. It was green, lime flavored, and they would empty out some over ice and pour some of that soda water on it, and you had yourself a Green River. So it's named after a drink, not a place. a nostalgic drink and a memorable place is what it's based on. He said, all those little anecdotes are part of my childhood. Those are things that happened to me, actually. I just wrote about them, and the audience shifted at the time and place.
This is obviously one I knew already.
Wow, shocker. Did you like it already? What do you think?
Did I like it already?
Obviously not.
No, I hated it before coming into this, but after that one more listen, now it's my favorite. like what?
Really turned things around for you. Well, you didn't say you liked it. You just said you knew it.
Hey, fair enough.
I really like his voice. Fogerty's just got such a recognizable holler.
It's a very fun voice.
And the production on this song is great too. They do a lot with like seventh chords in the songwriting, and I think the way that they've like put reverb on his voice really amplifies that. It just sounds gritty, sounds swampy. It's a ton of fun. I just love the nostalgia of it. I'm a sucker for a good nostalgia song.
I really like that guitar riff, the da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it's iconic. The problem I have with it is like a non-problem. Green River did it first and did it best, but you know the song Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress by the Hollies?
No, but I know her.
You know A Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress?
Yeah.
Well, you know the song too. You know the song. It sounds a lot like Green River, and that's actually, Green River is what that song was based on, but they based it on this song a little too strong, and Fogerty tried to sue the Hollies for plagiarism.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he had a good case. Good enough, apparently, that he really could have won, because they settled out of court for half of their revenue from that track, which is a lot. That's a lot of money. And so every time I hear Green River, I always kind of half get it confused for Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress.
Yeah, that's your problem, not the songs.
No, exactly. The song came first and did it better, honestly. It's fun how nostalgic the song feels, even though I've never done any of this. You know what I mean? How cool. I've never been down in the bayou. I've never fished for catfish.
What?
On a log.
Oh, on a log? No.
No, on a log. I've never walked around along the river road at night. Barefoot girls dancing in the moonlight. The bullfrogs don't call me. They call each other, and I just hear it sometimes.
Sometimes you listen in on their conversations, like a nosy parent.
Yeah, and they all go, Fogerty, Fogerty. They all call John Fogerty. It's not fair. It's fun. Pick up a flat rock, skip it across Green River. Well. He does say well a lot. If you want to imitate John Fogerty, you really got to nail the well and the ooh. He does a lot of, like, oohs that he squeezes out.
He does the oohs well.
Oh, well. Yes, he does. It's a great song. What a rocker. So you're 1 for 1. What about Commotion? Did you know Commotion?
Sure did.
I wasn't sure. It's a bigger hit, one of the singles, but it maybe is a deeper cut in terms of like all of Creedence. But it was big in its own right. Commotion ended up breaking into the top 40 and got all the way to number 30 in the US. Commotion makes good use of the harmonica.
It does. Listen, if there's one thing you know about me on this podcast, it's that I love a good harmonica.
It does seem like you can never get enough. That's true.
I don't think I've ever once complained about the harmonica.
I think that's actually correct. Yeah. Well, the late 1960s, and the early, all of the 1960s, whole decade was a time that's infamous for civil unrest, right? I mean, we start the decade off with the Kennedy assassination in 63. There's the Vietnam War and counter-protests. There's the Civil Rights Movement. There's, you name it. RFK, MLK, Malcolm X. People are dying. People are unsettled. Like, there's a whole series of, like, social commotion. And so Commotion, the song, is kind of a microcosm for this figurative uproar that society's working through in the time. Fogerty said, I was writing about what was in the air, and the song Commotion is what came out of me. I was just doing what came naturally. As he wrote the song, he kind of envisioned it as a train beat. Fogerty says he loves to play the train beat, and I'm not convinced that that wasn't just what was in his head, because commotion and locomotion are very similar words.
But it's not.
It's not, but it's close. I can see why the train beat and commotion go hand in hand, is what I'm saying.
I'll allow it.
Yeah. I think the first time I properly heard Commotion was when I was listening to this album for the first time.
Really?
Yeah, and what a winner. I mean, if you came into this record thinking Creedence is like a one-off, or like their hits are the only good stuff, Commotion will snap you out of that right away. And if Commotion doesn't do it, Tombstone Shadow sure will.
Sure will.
Now I'm questioning everything I know. Boy, this is a bad week for true information. Tombstone Shadow is a great song, and what I learned about it, lyrically what it's about a little bit, but I think it's based on a true story, was that John Fogerty went to a fortune teller, and it sounds like he got some bad news. The fortune teller told him to avoid airplanes, and that he would have a year of bad luck, and Tombstone Shadow, whether it happened or not, that inspiration is what resulted in Tombstone Shadow. Because he talks about it directly. We've got 13 months of bad luck, bound to be some pain, don't fly in no machines, because the Tombstone Shadow's stretching across my path. So that's what it's about, true or untrue. little more 12-bar blues action for you. Another way that Creedence is getting right back to their musical roots. Love that. Did you know Tombstone Shadow?
You bet ya.
I do bet me, and I cleaned up on that one.
That was one you thought I'd know?
Oh, yeah.
But you didn't think I would know Commotion. Interesting.
I thought you'd know it. I just thought I'd ask. I think you know maybe all 9. Remember? That's why I asked if you were batting 1,000.
Time will tell.
I know. Time's still telling. We're in the middle of it.
Time's very long-winded.
It's got all the time in the world. I really like the lead guitar parts on Tombstone Shadow. They're pretty great. It's nice to hear them just jam out over a steady chord progression. Up next, though, John Fogerty wrote this next song just for you. That's right. You, Connor, me, you listening to this, everybody. John Fogerty wrote track 4 for everyone.
Wow.
I know.
This one is one that I get the hook stuck in my head.
Wrote a song for everyone.
Yeah, that part gets stuck in my head.
Rightfully so. It's great. It's a very catchy hook. Fogerty wrote the song about his now ex-wife. At the time, she was just his wife. And they've tacked an X onto the beginning of it. But he said, it was early 1969, and I was 23 years old. We had our first child, who at the time was 2.5. I was sitting in my room, writing the songs, pushing my career. Without the songs, the career ends. You might be a great band, but without the songs, you're not going anywhere. At one point, my wife and I had a mild misunderstanding. I wouldn't even call it a fight. She was miffed, taking our young son out, wishing I could be more involved. But there I was, the musician, manic and possessed, the only guy holding things up. Without me, it all collapses. So I'm feeling quite put upon. As she walks out the door, I say to myself, I wrote a song for everyone, and I couldn't even talk to you. I looked at my piece of paper and changed gears. How many great leaders can't even manage their own families? So I went with that. It's still a special song in the sense that it keeps my feet on the ground. You sit and write these songs, yet you try and talk to your own son and daughter, and maybe you're totally inadequate, trying to explain life to a child. That's a complex emotion to put into a song. He has to write songs that have mass appeal. He has to communicate as his job. And even though he spends so much time and energy doing it in his music, he can't figure out how to get it together in real life. At least in this instant. I kind of like it. It's a more laid-back song.
Yeah, I can never remember the words to it.
Really? He wrote it for you.
I know. Get his melody stuck in my head, but then can never remember the words to go with it.
That's tough. You just gotta hum then. Hum or whistle. Wrote a song for everyone, wrote a song for truth. Got myself arrested, wound up in jail. It's a whole series of events. And to be fair, most of the lyrics are just wrote a song for everyone. It comes up many a time in many a chorus. That's about the halfway point of the album. And, it's okay if you don't remember all the words of Wrote a Song for Everyone, because one of the most memorable CCR songs of all time, bar none,
Of all time.
is up next, track 5. Bad Moon, Rising.
I see a bad moon rising.
Yeah, you do. It's another huge, huge song. It was the album's lead single.
Didn't know it.
Oh, wow. That actually would blow my mind. If you're like, yeah, I knew Commotion. I knew Tombstone Shadow. I knew Wrote a Song for Everyone. Now, this Bad Moon Rising, this was something different. Even if it was true, I would not be able to believe you.
This is the episode of misinformation, so.
Apparently. The clear water is not very clear today. It's all muddy.
it's swamp water.
Swamps, yeah. That's true. But as the lead single, Bad Moon Rising predated the album by 4 whole weeks. Which is a lot when you consider, how close they're putting out albums together. Like all of Creedence's greatest hits, Bad Moon Rising peaked at number 2 on the Hot 100. But in the UK, it did finish the climb and made it to the top spot. In the US, it got blocked by, if you can believe it, the theme song from the Romeo and Juliet movie.
Wait, what?
The theme song from the Romeo and Juliet movie.
Insane.
The one from the 60s with that guy that looks like Zac Efron.
Yeah.
The Zeffirelli one. The theme song from that was better in the eyes of the public than Bad Moon Rising. And that's not to say it's not, but it's not. Bad Moon Rising did go on to be Rolling Stone's 364th greatest song of all time. That's a feat that Romeo and Juliet cannot match. And Bad Moon Rising's been covered by at least 20 different major artists over the years. Today, it's certified 2 times platinum. It was cool to see Fogerty live and hear him play Bad Moon Rising at a very cool outdoor venue at night where the bad moon had arisen. He sang, I see the bad moon rising, and I looked up and I saw it too. It was very fun.
Like, wow, we're seeing the same, he gets me.
Seeing the same moon. So relatable. He's just like me. Yes. When he was writing lyrics, John was inspired by a 1941 film adaptation of the classic tale, The Devil and Daniel Webster. Maybe you've heard of it. In the movie, a character makes a deal with the devil and sells his soul for material wealth. So the bad moon is an ominous sign about the impending reckoning for such a choice.
Oh.
Yeah, he sells his soul to the devil, and when the bad moon rises, that means he's about to get what he's bargained for. The image that was in his head and the particular inspiration that he was thinking of is he said, the scene I liked is where there's a devastating hurricane. Furniture, trees, houses, everything's blowing around. That story and that look really stuck in my mind, and they were the germ for the song. And he's also talked a little bit about how the lyrics and the music are kind of incongruous. How the lyrics are so ominous and scary and dark, and the music is just happy. I see a bad moon, right? You know what I mean? They don't go together. There's a cognitive dissonance there.
Yeah.
He said he didn't even realize that was the case until the band started rehearsing it. He said it's a happy sounding tune, but it didn't bother me at the time. Like Commotion, it's another song that has some pretty overt undertones that critique what the country was doing and the major events of the late 60s. He said the song was a metaphor. I wasn't just writing about the weather. The times seemed to be in turmoil. Martin Luther King and Robert F. Kennedy had been assassinated, and I knew it was a tumultuous time. The bad moon rising, ominous. He said when you're a very tuned-in young person, you're tied to everything that affects your generation. So I think it was there, but I was also more into the idea of natural phenomena and unavoidability. It's cool. Bad Moon Rising's a great song, and I'm glad it's one of their greatest hits, and I'm really sad that it's only 2 minutes and 19 seconds. It's the shortest song on this album, and it's...
Yeah, it feels like it should be way longer.
I know, it's very arguably the best. I want like a 5-minute Bad Moon Rising. Give me a Bad Moon Rising that's longer than Wrote a Song for Everyone.
Heck yeah.
But Bad Moon Rising, as a single, did indeed get a B-side. And do you know what the B-side to Bad Moon Rising was?
What was it?
It was Lodi, track 6. Making it another one that was out.
Stuck in...
That's the song. And since it came out as the B-side of Bad Moon Rising, it was out way before the album too. It's all about a down-on-his-luck musician who's had to give up pursuing his dreams and head home to the little rural farm town of Lodi, California. Now, Fogerty, much, again, just like you and me, so relatable. Fogerty has never been to Lodi, California. He just really liked the name, and that's why he chose it for the song. And it's a pretty good name, I'll admit. It's a little bit of a bummer of a song, but the city has really run with it and adopted it as their own. They actually use the lyric, "Oh Lord, stuck in Lodi again," during their festivals and activities as like a tagline.
That's funny.
It is. I know. The whole idea of being stuck in Lodi, in Fogerty's eyes, and through the lens of the song, is a bad thing because he can't be out on the road living his dreams. It's like symbolic of the failure of what he set out to do.
Yeah.
But the people that are in Lodi, love it. What a nice community. And they're like, heck yeah, I'm stuck in Lodi. Why would I ever want to be anywhere else? Fogerty himself said on Lodi, I saw a much older person than I was because it's sort of a tragic telling. A guy is stuck in a place where people really don't appreciate him. Since I was at the beginning of a good career, I was hoping that wouldn't happen to me. And it's another heavily covered song, covered by some big names like Emmylou Harris, Tom Jones, the Flying Burrito Brothers, that's the band with Graham Parsons in it, Bo Diddley, Eric Church, lots of other people have covered Lodi.
We've done some of those people.
We sure have, especially Emmylou Harris and Eric Church.
It's another one that you just recognize the song from just the opening lyrics.
You do if you've heard it before.
Even if you haven't.
Even if you haven't heard it, you're like, oh, this is Lodi. I know that.
You're like, I know this.
Deep in my soul, I recognize stuck in Lodi again suddenly becomes like way darker, like Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Hey, we should have known something was going to go awry this episode.
Yeah?
Yeah, this episode always was going to have Sinister Purpose.
Nice, but first we should talk about Cross Tie Walker.
Dang it, I was a song early, you're right.
Put it in the back pocket. Just save that one.
Put it in the back pocket.
Yeah. Yep. We'll come back to that.
Oh, man.
That was good, though. You did a good job.
I can't even do that right.
That's okay. All the other things were the Mixtaper. Not your fault.
Yeah.
Did you know Cross Tie Walker?
Of course I know Cross Tie Walker.
Okay. This is one of the ones that I thought had a better chance of you not getting. But really, not surprised. Another trainee kind of song. Another bluesy kind of song. It's pretty solid. I like Cross Tie Walker. It's kind of got the same energy, lyrically, of Green River to me, with the same musical kind of sound of Commotion or Bad Moon Rising. I don't know. It's just a classic blues song. There's a lot of repetitive lyrics in here. Run, 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 run if you see me a-coming. It's that standard blues thing where you repeat the lyric a couple times in the verse. I like it well enough. Also, it's interesting that he called forward to cross-tie walkers a little bit in Green River. I meant to mention it up there, but he says something about a cross-tie walker. Just a person who's walking along the train tracks, right? Hitching a ride, kind of hoboing their way across the country.
It's another one that I find myself intrigued by the guitar.
Absolutely. I like how it kind of walks a fine line between Bad Moon Rising and Commotion. Train beats, but also kind of sounds like Bad Moon Rising a second time, a little bit. I like the tone of his guitar, too. It's always got this nice little bright mid-range that I really like. But now, you know what, you can do the back pocket thing now.
I don't know if I have it in me.
Maybe I'll just copy and paste exactly what you said before and put it right here, and then I'll just change my response to it.
That'd be probably better quality.
Yeah.
Hey, we should have known something was going to go awry this episode.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, this episode always was going to have Sinister Purpose.
Oh, wow, Sinister Purpose. What a coincidence. You're right. That's the next track. Very good transition. Super organic.
Well, you don't have to sound all condescending about it.
No, it was super organic. It was a good transition. It was just in the wrong spot.
They don't know that.
It's like eating a really good cheeseburger for breakfast. It was awesome, but kind of in the wrong place. Sinister Purposes, track 8 of 9. Kind of thematically is a return toward Bad Moon Rising. There's something evil going on. There's a sinister purpose. Something's afoot. There's really not many lyrics in this.
No, there's not.
When the sky's gray and the moon is hate, I'll be down to get you. Sinister purpose knocking at your door.
But it just bop, 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 bop.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like the way that the melody of the guitar really holds tight to what he's singing. It's just a very nice, a well-constructed song. I honestly don't have too much else to say about Sinister Purpose. I think it's got some cool instrumental fills, but the themes we've already talked about. The themes are done better on Bad Moon Rising, and there's just not many lyrics.
Yeah, this one's a bop.
Sinister Purpose is a bop, truly, yeah. And it's just the right length. It's longer than the shortest songs on this album by a minute, maybe more, but it's not like 5 minutes. You know, it's perfect bite-sized. You can get into it and get out of it.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the nighttime is the right time. I gotta ask, I mean, we're 8 for 8 so far. Is this a song that you knew beforehand?
We are batting 1,000, folks.
Oh boy, we're batting 1,000. He knew every song.
I will say this one is one I'm probably the least familiar with.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. The Nighttime is the Right Time is unique on this record because it's the one and only cover. It's not a Fogerty or a Creedence original.
Oh.
So maybe that factors into why it's perhaps less popular or at least less known by you. I don't know. It was written by Nappy Brown, Ozzy Cadena, and Lou Herman. Brown actually recorded the original version in 1957. So, I mean, by the time Creedence got to it, it was 12 years old. It'd be like recording a 2012 hit today. But his 12-bar blues is classic stuff. More famous covers, even more famous than Creedence, have come from Ray Charles and James Brown as well. But I really like The Nighttime is the Right Time for a lot of reasons. I really like the guitar. I think it's got a really ripping sound to it that you don't hear that specifically anywhere else on the record. I think the vocal fills that back him up in the background are really great. I think they're unique and they add a lot to the song. I think his vocal is as powerful here as it is probably anywhere in these 9 tracks. I think there's a lot to love about The Nighttime is the Right Time. And when I was listening through this and Willie and the Poor Boys, this is one of those songs that sold me on it. I was like, I don't know, they're both such good albums. They both have such strong, like, singles, right? Big hits. And Nighttime is the Right Time is one instance where I was like, you know, Green River also has a lot of really, really solid, not singles, too, right? Not hits. And so that's why I went for it. What do you think? Since you were less familiar with The Nighttime is the Right Time, I don't know, do you like it better or worse in the context of the album? Or just even hearing it again?
Still pretty mid.
Wow, okay. Mid relative to all songs? Mid relative to Creedence?
Both.
Oh.
It's probably one of my least favorites, actually.
Ever? Oh, wow.
On this album.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I would say my least favorites probably come from this back half, but it's not The Nighttime is the Right Time. This is a good, we can break this album up into neat little thirds when you get to your top 3s.
Yeah.
Which I suppose we should do right now. Get into Final Spin.
So you got to go first.
I know I do. Well, what else is there to say about this album? I like it a lot. It's that classic sound that only Creedence Clearwater Revival can deliver. I like the swamp style. I like the blues rock. I like the pluck of the guitars and the vibrancy of it. I like just the lyrics and the way that they have such an overt outspoken, like, political message. I don't know. As a symbol of the late 60s, I feel like they really do their job well. They kind of contribute to the discussion in a productive and entertaining way. And I'm a big history nerd. I like learning about the 60s, and Creedence is just a nice little window into that. Given the music in 86, I think there are some weaker points on this record in just when you get to like a Cross Tie Walker or a Sinister Purpose or Nighttime is the Right Time or the verse of Wrote a Song for Everyone. But 86 generally I think covers really cool musical choices like Green River and, some of the 12-bar blues that they include, and I like it a lot. 85 for the lyrics. I like the blend of nostalgia for his youth mixed with hopeful outlook for the future, mixed with bleak looking horizontally at the present. Creedence kind of always blends those three things together, those three time periods and perspectives in a really effective way. 85 for lyrics, 87 for instruments and production. Love a good rocking guitar, and that's what most of the album is. 91 for the vibe, both for historical value, entertainment value, quickness. This is such a short album. It's wild how fast this goes by. And cohesion, too. I think all the Creedence records that came out in 1969, and probably all of them, period, just sound like it could be one extended album. You just put them all together and have one big thing. But definitely very cohesive body of work. 87.8 is the final score here, which lands Green River at number 192. That puts it above Kanye West and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but below the Oh Hellos, and also below Minute by Minute by the Doobie Brothers, that we didn't do an episode on, but we backtracked. So there you have it. 192, top 200 for Green River. I'm curious for you, if you've never listened to this album in full before, but you knew all the songs, what was it like listening to them all at once, all together in this order?
Well,
As John Fogerty would say,
I've done that before.
You've done that before?
Sure have.
As a non-album listener, you've listened all the way through Green River, cover to cover.
Sure have.
That would have been a fun thing to know at the beginning before I was like, I wonder if you're batting 1,000. You could have just said...
Well, that wouldn't have been as much fun.
Okay, sure. You're right, it wouldn't have.
Yeah, I can now reveal
The time has come.
my college roommate had this album.
Oh, like on vinyl?
Yeah.
Oh, so you really have spun it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I've had some music that I've been exposed to from college roommates, too. It sounds like you weren't exposed fully to it by your roommate. You knew a lot of the Creedence.
Well, I wasn't exposed to them, but that's how I knew all of these songs.
Right. But you knew most of them independently anyway, probably.
Probably close to the 50% mark are on my rock playlist.
Okay.
But the rest of them, I've definitely heard a few times, so knew them all.
That's great. Well, if you knew them all and you liked most of them, that probably bodes well for your top 3 in your rankings. Shoot, you didn't even want to pick more Tom Petty songs last week because you needed all your top 3s this week.
Yep. And it's another week where I'm still reserving myself because of next week.
Oh my gosh. Really? Wow. So we're only getting a standard 4 top 3s this week.
Yeah, plus that's basically 50% of the album.
You're right. 4.5 would be halfway, so you're just under that mark.
In album order, Green River.
Uh-huh.
Bad Moon Rising.
Oh, wow. Big skip to the back half of the album. That's wild.
Well, to the middle third, please.
Okay. Yeah.
We talked about how nicely we could break it up into thirds, and then you just didn't.
That's true.
You want to guess my next one?
Green River, Bad Moon Rising. I think you're going to take Lodi.
I'm sure taking Lodi. And my con men.
Don't do that. Your honorable mention
Oh.
was surely not The Nighttime is the Right Time. And you didn't have a lot to say about Sinister Purpose. You did a cool transition with it eventually. Cross Tie Walker, you like the guitar on. I think I'm going to say your honorable mention is Cross Tie Walker.
It was Sinister Purpose. I talked about how funky it was.
Okay. Yeah, that's good because that's a better honorable mention than Cross Tie Walker. I'm more on board with that. But I'm gonna raise a commotion about this.
Okay.
You should have picked Commotion. Is that not where you thought that was going?
No, I had no idea where you were going with that.
I'll tell you what. Here, wait. Since 4.5 would be half the album, you can pick half of one other song.
Oh, I'll take half of Commotion then.
Which half, first or back? First or second?
I want the motion.
Yeah, I guess you could just take the middle half and leave 2/4 on the ends.
I want the motion. Keep the calm.
Well, then you only get the ocean because you'd have to cut off the word after the, honestly, halfway through the O.
Makes it a backward C.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. So you can just take the second half of Commotion, sure.
No, I would have taken Commotion if I could take another one, but I can't, so it's left off.
So it's officially snubbed, and even though you said it and everyone knows it, doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
No.
Get to save it for next week where I'll need it.
Soon may it come.
My score.
Uh-huh.
This one's going to get 9 credible sources out of 10.
Whoa.
Yeah.
9 is no surprise, and credible sources are good. That's great. That's a very wise unit.
It's actually going to go right below. You know what? No, it's going bottom of the 9s.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Knew the whole album. Only half of it makes the Connor rock playlist, so it's a 9, but it's a lower 9.
But the bottom. I mean,
Yeah, I'm in a Dr. Demento mood right now, so.
Okay, whatever. I was to say that kind of. I mean, you put Tina Turner pretty close to above Creedence. Then we see which Proud Mary is your favorite.
Well, yeah. I feel like I said that earlier.
You did, but this is just visual proof of that. I'm surprised by the bottom of the 9s. I'm not surprised by a 9, but I'm a little surprised by bottom of the 9s.
Well, I don't know. The problem is most of the things that like I think of when I think of Creedence Clearwater Revival aren't on this album.
Really? So that's going to be a backtracks question then. If you're thinking of Down on the Corner and Fortunate Son.
I mean, have you ever seen The Rain, Fortunate Son, their version of Proud Mary, Up and Around the Bend?
Uh-oh.
So many songs that just aren't here.
You're making me think
that are what I usually think of.
You're making me think the backtracks is definitely not going to go in my favor this time. Willie and the Poor Boys has some of those hits. It might be a stronger album for you.
We'll find out when we backtrack.
Oh, no. I mean, yeah, we'll have to find out. I'm excited for that, but they're very similar albums.
Until that comes out, I guess we need to pick our playlist picks first. I was going to transition us into...
That's a good transition, just a little too soon.
Oh, man.
A side of fries for my cheeseburger with breakfast. It's okay. Put that one in your back pocket and don't forget it this time. Well, I guess it won't work again. It's only applicable now.
It's only applicable now.
Oh, well, that one's lost. Let's do playlist picks. This is where Cross Tie Walker's getting in a train wreck.
I'll just take Bad Moon Rising.
You're taking Bad Moon Rising. Easy enough. That makes my pick really hard.
That's why I left it to you.
Thanks. I'm tempted by Green River, Commotion, or Lodi. Green River's probably the most well-known pick. Probably objectively one of the better of the songs. But it feels mainstream. And it feels like putting Bad Moon Rising and Green River on the playlist as our favorite songs is not giving credence to a lot of other really good songs here. I'll take Lodi.
All right, taking Lodi.
Yeah, I think it plays well with Bad Moon Rising. I think that's a good pair. I just like the vibes of it. I like the message and the, just the feel. Hey, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for listening. If you want to listen to more episodes, be sure to follow, subscribe, and don't forget to like, rate, give us some stars or comments or whatever you want to do. And say hey. You can find us on social media at SpinItPod on X, at SpinItPodOfficial on Instagram, and on the web at www.spinitpod.com. Next week, Connor will have a pick, letting you take the wheel. I'm excited. It's going to be a really interesting episode, is all I can say.
A wheelie interested episode, since I'll be at the wheel.
Oh, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
It's definitely a pick fitting of the year of discovery. That's for sure.
Sure is. We're discovering.
And if you come back in that episode, you might hear Connor say silly things like this.
Knowledge is both a gift and a curse.
Maybe that was a clue.
A clue.
That wasn't a clue.
Oh.
Tell
somebody who's constantly falling for misinformation.
Tell your most gullible friends about the podcast where we translated the entire thing to Russian and there are 9,000 words. That's right.
Oh, poor Mixtaper.
Poor guy. Yeah, he'll be okay next week, though. I think he'll bounce back fast, if we're lucky.
Yeah, unfortunately with Mixtapers, they tend to bounce once and then kind of plummet. So 2 weeks from now, who knows where he'll be.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about Mixtapers. We'll see you next week. Always remember to check your sources. And until then, keep spinning.
Now that we've revived Creedence Clearwater Revival for this episode, are they Creedence Clearwater Revival?
We didn't really revive them.
Dude, did we do a Creedence Clearwater Revival? Is that what we just did?
I think that would be what happens if you did a revival that was focused around Creedence Clearwater Revival. Yeah.
It's kind of what we just did, though.
I mean, no, we just did it wasn't really a revival, it was just a podcast.
It was a seance.
I mean, most of them are still alive.
The band's not.
The band, it's true, the band is dead. The band died in 1973, which it's a shame that the USSR didn't get that memo in time, but...
Imagine if they were still around in 1977 and could have been invited to perform in the USSR.
I genuinely don't even think Fogerty would have done it, but, but what do I know? Good old Johnny Corvette.